Hi folks, some of the information I'm sharing, the basic information I'm sharing, I've already shared in my weekly overview from yesterday. But the lunar eclipse in Pisces, the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces is on September the 7th, 2025, next Sunday, a week from today. And I've started to do my new moon and full moon videos a little bit earlier than before, so I hope that's working for you. I do think that people who are used to my channel have a tendency to look for these videos now 2 or 3 days before the actual event. I don't blame them and think that it hasn't been done or prepped, but just know, I mean, I'm announcing it on the video that the eclipse video is here. It's a very simple lunation. For it to be an eclipse, clearly, the sun and the moon need to be conjunct the nodes, and they are. The full moon is at 15 degrees. The sun is at 15 degrees of Virgo. The moon is at 15 degrees of Pisces. And the north node is at 18 degrees of Pisces. And the south node is at 18 degrees of Virgo. So it's an eclipse. The primary aspect that this eclipse makes is a trine to Jupiter in the sign of Cancer. Trines are harmonious aspects. But the theory is that trine energy can pass us by. It's all about our readiness to take advantage of the harmonious. It all depends on how prepared we are and how on top of our lives we are to take advantage of when the wind is behind us. Are we on the sailboat? Are the sails appropriately taut? Do we have our hand on the rudder? Are we ready to take advantage of a favorable wind whenever that favorable wind occurs? Talking about favorable winds, a police helicopter, is making its way in the skies of Los Angeles. Not much is new when it comes to that. The other notable feature of this full moon is that Mercury is at 10 degrees of Virgo and is approaching the sun. So even though I tend to look at aspects that are within 5 degrees, this is a little over 5 degrees, but let's just say that the full moon is also opposite Mercury. So in Virgo, you have Mercury, the sun, and the south node. In Pisces, you have the full moon and the north node, and they are opposite each other. Mercury and the sun make an exact conjunction. Why don't we just take a look at this information? Oh my God, my computer. See, I've already started to whine this early in the reading. The conjunction becomes exact on September the 13th. I'm a little surprised because it's 13 days from now, and I'm acting as if the full moon is tomorrow. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. The full moon is on September the 7th, over 5 degrees away, Mercury is over 5 degrees away from the sun. And then September the 13th, Mercury and the sun will conjunct. So once again, we've got the sun in Virgo at 15 degrees, Mercury at 10 degrees, the south node at 18 degrees. And in Pisces, we've got a full moon at 15 degrees and the north node at 18 degrees. So, and we've got Jupiter at 19 degrees in the sign of Cancer. So as far as the full moon itself is concerned, it trines Jupiter, and it is somewhat loosely, in my opinion, for some astrologers, not so loosely and quite prominently opposite Mercury. And the only other aspect that is enshrined, encoded into this full moon is Uranus trine Pluto. Uranus in Gemini trine Pluto in Aquarius. So all in all, as lunations go, a pretty harmonious full moon lunar eclipse. All of that said, I do expect the intensity to increase this week, and I do expect the ground to shift in an eclipsy manner. I would just implore everybody to not be too rash in assuming what the outcome of the eclipses is going to be and hastening the eclipse by doing something rash. What do I mean by that? Let's say you are at work and the energies at work seem a little bit strange, and some people are behaving rudely or problematically towards you, and you feel like, this is a sign that I should leave, and this environment is becoming increasingly toxic, and I'm getting really tired of it, and a rash decision would be that when you don't have the options necessarily. Now, if we're talking about a toxicity that is really affecting your emotional and mental health, then then there are steps that hopefully you can and should take with regard to talking to your manager, talking to HR, all that kind of stuff. But let's say that there are sometimes we can assume that an eclipse is saying, well, this job should be eclipsed out of my life, or this should happen, or that. And it could be, depending on where the sign of Virgo sits in your chart, it could be that there is a longer term message of something needing to be released in that part of the chart. And it could be that as you head towards either March the 3rd of next year or February, March of 2027, whatever this situation is that you instinctively feel is part of releasing something in the house occupied by Virgo in your chart can be released. But don't assume that whatever's going on in the workplace means that you should be the one making an exit. It could be that you realize now, or a couple of months from now, or as you head towards Thanksgiving, that whoever it is that is uncomfortable and is creating ripples is the one who leaves. In other words, eclipses and full moons affect everybody. What is important to pay attention. So the intensity is going to increase for a lot of people, most of us. Emotional and intuitive flare-ups for feelings that we have repressed are likely. Tantrums are likely. Temper flare-ups are likely. Dramatic exits are likely. Try to honor and pay attention to what is emerging for you emotionally and intuitively, and try to gauge whether it needs expression. And if you're going to express it, maybe express it assertively and not aggressively. In certain cases, if you feel that the mounting pressure actually means that it should lead to an ending or a departure, think it through. And if it's the right thing to do, feel free to do it. Try not to, as I said, try not to manufacture the eclipses. Try to pay attention to if something is being eclipsed in and out of your life. Try to partner with spirit around the right timing around it. And one of the ways to look at that is to see whatever it is that you're trying to exit, is it contributing to your stability in a way that is still constructive and productive? Whenever we're working with eclipses, it's a longer arc than people give it credit for. We're talking about an arc that takes us from the middle of July of 2024 to February, March of 2027 on the Pisces Virgo axis. This is the second full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. We had one last September of 2024. And now we have one again on September 7th of this year. And if you're on the receiving end of a tantrum or full moony behavior, still pay attention to what is being said or expressed, because it might give you valuable clues with regard to what is going on for the other person emotionally in terms of their emotional or intuitive truth or flare-up. I mean, I'm doing my best to describe what the energies, and with full moons, sort of emotions, sensual emotions, tears, sort of fluids, it's kind of, the tides are not powerless. They're quite a powerful phenomenon. The gravitational pull of the moon is not something to be scoffed at. Now, the moon's fullness or lack thereof is not a factor in that gravitational pull, but archetypally, astrologically, while whether or not a moon is full and how much light is on it doesn't affect the power of its gravitational pull, astrologically, a full moon stands for something. And I feel that it stands for something with good reason. If anyone were to say to me, convince me that astrology works, I would say pay attention to what happens when Mercury is retrograde, especially going retrograde and direct, and pay attention to the energies around new moons, full moons, and the lunar cycles of new moons and full moons every 28 days, and start to attune to the eclipses. You don't need a lot to pay attention to that. And then come back to me and tell me that there isn't something here, that it's all in our minds. And it could be. We can convince ourselves of a lot. On the positive side, full moons, including eclipses, and particularly lunar eclipses, can bring sort of quantum leaps. First and foremost, full moons can bring closure, completion, offers, contracts, visibility, temporary visibility around the full moon, 3 or 4 days before our full moon, a week's worth of visibility. A culmination. The US presidential election often coincides with the Taurus full moon in some way, shape, or form. So, and the intensity of that, so anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to let you guys research that if you want to. Culminations, completions. So, and the biggest impact on a day-to-day basis as far as the full moon is concerned is just that the intensity increases and what is put on our plate increases, and our managing of our productivity can become and feel really unwieldy. Those of you who've been watching my videos for a while, 11 minutes in will say, well, I know all this and I've heard all this and Abhi said all this over and over again, but there are people who will be watching this video for a first time. I did talk about the primary aspects related to this eclipse. And let's go into that. A lot of what I have to say about this full moon lunar eclipse I've already said in the weekly overview because it's such a simple lunation. With this particular full moon, there could be something that came into our consciousness the week before and after July the 7th of this year that comes up again thematically. Or we may have felt the eclipse the week before and after July the 7th, and something reaches some sort of culmination by September the 7th. As I explained in the weekly overview, lightning does not necessarily strike. Children are sweet. Lightning does not necessarily strike on September the 7th or on the day of the eclipse. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's an eclipse, lightning's gonna strike something terrible. We have 4 eclipses a year, 2 full moon lunar eclipses a year. Often by the time the eclipse occurs, something is already in place. The change or the ripple that is meant to be created is already in progress. Okay, so it could be that a plumb line is dropped into a pool of water, or a pebble is dropped into water, and the concentric circles of waves continue, and by the time you get to the eclipse, they have kind of started to work their way out. The change is already in place. It's fair. It is a full moon lunar eclipse. Some people may... Look, I've already told you in the weekly, we're starting today, September the 1st, all the way to the end of September, we are in the eclipse portal. So information, developments related to situations that are being eclipsed into and out of our lives, portents of change. What are we leaning into the Pisces part of the chart? What are we releasing the Virgo part of the chart? All of this is already present to us. The only thing, as I said, I don't want you to do is to rush something or assume something. It will become clear when it is time to exit a situation. It will become clear when as I've said, there are certain traditions where people say, sit eclipses out. don't do too much. I don't, as I said, and as I've said, I don't really agree with that. I think that it is clear to us already what is the new reality we're trying to build and what is the old reality that we're trying to release. And all we need to do is make room and start to move towards that new reality, and that old reality will start to atrophy, will start to diminish in energetic importance automatically. And that might require certain discipline. But if that old reality is continuing to help us with the transition, we don't need to prematurely kick it out of bed. It will become clear when that switch has occurred. And the new reality is symbolized by leaning into the house occupied by the sign of Pisces in your chart, and the old reality by releasing something in the Virgo part of the chart. I am not talking to each of you individually, my darlings. I am not looking at your individual chart. I can't give you more than this. The membership part of the channel, and I'm not trying to shamelessly plug it in a creepy way, but yes, if you want to look at rising sign specific videos, those are in the membership part of the channel, and you can look there. And in fact, rising sign videos going all the way to when I started to do them in February, March of this year, started talk with videos on the Pisces and Virgo eclipses. So you can go back to February, March if your rising sign video is not there yet. You know, they'll continue to come out as they're going to come out. But that information, if you want to get that one level deeper. But a lot of you know your charts. And a lot of eclipse energy is around our understanding what the different houses stand for and how these eclipses show up and what they mean. And the eclipse energy, particularly the North Node eclipse energy, I think in most cases is distinct from Saturn and Neptune and Pisces, and Saturn coming back into Pisces. Saturn coming back into Pisces is stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart with old crises, whereas the North Node eclipse leaning into Pisces and encouraging us to develop something in the Pisces part of the chart is newer energy. Wherever Jupiter goes, he ends a 12, 13-year cycle, starts a 12, 13-year cycle of greater alignment for you. Again, these are very individual interpretations for each house in your chart. Sometimes we expect wherever Jupiter is, we're going to get bounty and luck. And I've often said if Jupiter is going over the 10,000, you expect to get promoted, there's more likely that there will be a termination or a layoff so that you can move in a more aligned direction. If Jupiter is going over the second house and you're expecting to get millions or thousands of dollars of that raise, it is more likely that there will be a financial crisis that will force you to move in a more aligned direction to create your financial security and to start to earn. If Jupiter is going over your fourth house and you're thinking, oh my God, it is more likely that there will be an ending of a real estate or a residence situation that moves you in a direction that is more aligned for you, something that actually where you are will make your heart sing. And this full moon in Pisces trines Jupiter. The full moon and the eclipse is, there could very well be something, there's a code, whatever it is that we're trying to lean into in the Pisces part of the chart is helping contribute to Jupiter making his endings and new beginnings in the Cancer part of the chart. With a faster moving planet, the faster moving planet does something or takes the action that supports the slower moving planet. And one can say that the full moon is supporting Jupiter. But Jupiter and the nodes kind of, it really depends on where they are, what Jupiter is in his cycle, how fast he's moving, how close he is to being retrograde. So let's just say that Jupiter's transit through the sign of Cancer and the North Node eclipses right now through the sign of Pisces are walking hand in hand, or supporting each other. Again, without looking at an individual chart, I can't say more, but a lot of you know your charts. Ultimately, for someone who doesn't know their chart, this culmination, this leaning into the Pisces part of the chart to develop, to grow, to create desired change, to create the new, to follow the breadcrumbs, to follow the carrot at the end of the stick. Remember that with eclipses, this is part of the thing. You can't just quickly make no assumptions with regard to where the eclipse is leading you. Just pay attention to what is the carrot at the end of the stick that you're being desired and led to. You might think, oh my God, it's this, but it's in the process of moving in that direction that it will become clear to you what these eclipses are really about. And for anyone who does not know astrology well or does not know their chart, know that a full moon in Pisces, a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, trining Jupiter in Cancer, is a lovely aspect. So one could argue that since this is the closest aspect that the full moon is making with a powerful planet whose way of showering us with blessings is to make auspicious and aligned new beginnings, beginning a 12, 13-year cycle in whichever part of the chart he is transitioning, that there's something about this full moon that is actively trying to create the new. That could be something that contributes to an ending, but endings and new beginnings are, just different words, just different sides of the same coin. Uranus goes retrograde this week. As I mentioned in my weekly overview. And after he goes retrograde, he is going to trine Pluto for the first of many times over the next 2 or 3 years on September the 19th. Uranus encouraging you to find your breadcrumbs, your world, express your authentic identity in the Gemini part of the chart, supporting harmoniously. Pluto trying to transform the Aquarius part of the chart for your benefit, and Pluto currently trying also to release bonds and attachments that are preventing that transformation. Lovely. And it's Uranus who is working to support Pluto as the faster moving planet. Now, with the Mercury Sun conjunction, the Mercury cycle began in the sign of Leo on July the 31st. Oh my God. I'm going to let that siren pass. You all must think I live in an urban jungle, and I guess I don't think of Glendale as an urban jungle. How bad could it be that a siren, I'm like, what? It's Glendale. It could be a fire engine, it could be an ambulance, in fairness. Oh, Abby, why do you turn into such a curmudgeon when you're doing readings? Seriously, that's like a separate fictional character. Abby when he's not doing readings, and Abby when he's doing readings. I've talked about Mercury cycles with you before, and I call them a kind of a drumbeat, some sort of project that actually moves forward without impediments. Some sort of drumbeat that moves forward without impediments. Some sort of project related to the sign of Leo that is being driven and completed by Mercury, the planet of communication and transactions and technology, and self-expression through words and writing, cognition, in the house occupied by Leo, all the way from July the 31st to November the 20th. And Mercury cycles tend to become very successful simply by virtue of the fact that they're not eclipses and full moons. They're not these drama-filled dramatic astrological events that take up a lot of our energy and our attention, very often the things that need our attention, we might have a tendency to procrastinate on, or we might create crises in them, or, you know, and it's the stuff that we are able to somehow execute on a day-to-day basis that gets built and taken care of. Between the Mercury cycle started on July 31st, but between August the 11th, when Mercury went direct in Leo, to September the 13th, is the first phase of actually building something in the Leo part of the chart. And we're going to build on what we've built between September 13th to November the 9th. And the Mercury cycle goes all the way to November the 20th, when a new Mercury cycle will start in the sign of Scorpio. But when a direct Mercury conjuncts the Sun, first and foremost, it's an important milestone in that Mercury cycle, so that this phase of, it's the equivalent of getting some sort of a beta test product out, or building a first pass at something in the Leo part of the chart, is done by September 13th. And then, as I said, from September 13th to November 9th, it is out there, and based on the feedback and based on what we have, we get to develop it some more. We get to extend it. So that's the first relatively benign thing that I have to say regarding a Mercury Sun conjunction. The bigger, more important thing I want to say about a Mercury Sun conjunction is that two things happen when a Mercury Sun conjunction happens. One, Mercury's combust. So often the powers that are attributed to Mercury to make things run smoothly on a day-to-day basis, travel, meetings, technology, bags finding their place, you getting to places on time, that can experience a more minor Mercury retrograde-like confusion, because Mercury, it's as if Mercury has gone into a conference room with the Sun, to a retreat in Switzerland, and is not accessible to us. What is actually going on in that conference room is more powerful and more important, and needs to happen several times a year. Mercury conjuncts the Sun several times a year, retrograde and direct, and retrograde and direct. It is as if our mental self, our mental body, has a tendency to get so wrapped up into a kind of set of activities on the wings of the, winged messenger planet, that every now and then it needs to be brought back to the Sun to get into alignment. The Sun absolutely, for me, represents our connection to Source, our connection to our highest self. And so when Mercury and the Sun conjuncts, it's a little bit as if Mercury is burning off a certain, it's not karma, it's like burning off a certain set of impressions, a certain accretion that has occurred. And so there's a born-again quality to the personal planets conjuncting the Sun. It's like they go through this baptism of fire. They burn off old patterns, but they also get downloads of, this is what is going on, this is what is the priority, this is what we're building, this is what you need to communicate on, winged messenger, this is your agenda, till we connect the next time on November the 20th. So Mercury gets his marching orders from the Sun starting about September 8th of this year to September the 13th of this year. Until about September the 18th, he is still too close to the Sun to be functioning completely. So the houses ruled by Mercury in your chart, and kind of Mercury retrograde things, just kind of watch out for crossed wires and all that kind of stuff. But it's an important, but also look out for alignment. Particularly related to the Mercury cycle in Leo and the Virgo part of your chart, where we have two new moons. We had a new moon a week ago, by the time the full moon lunar eclipse occurs 2 weeks ago, and that new moon is about something new being built in the Virgo part of the chart and bring the Virgo part of the chart into alignment. And in such a way that it actually allows Uranus and Gemini, because that new moon was square Uranus and Gemini, to help us create the right, authentic reality representation of ourselves in the house occupied by Gemini in your chart. We have this full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo that is in Pisces, forgive me, a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces that is a culmination of a certain energy that may have been felt the week before and after July the 7th, that is pulling us into the new. And then on September the 21st, we have a new moon solar eclipse in Virgo that trines Uranus and Pluto and opposes Saturn and Neptune. And, you know, we're going to cover that sets up a cycle between September the 21st to March the 3rd of next year that is really focused on releasing the old as we move towards the new on multiple levels. And a lot of you may expect that September should be the month where dramatic endings occur. I think those endings will occur more as we head to March the 3rd when it comes to releasing the old. This is why I'm just saying, this is why I'm cautioning you to not mistake the information and intimations that you're going to be getting from the eclipses that are giving you a stronger and clearer sense of what these eclipses are about. Do not mistake that with you needing to rush that process. The new moon solar eclipse in Virgo, which is a south node solar eclipse, will start the process of releasing what you need to in the Virgo part of the chart. And that will take you to March the 3rd of next year. And the actual release may well occur between January the 3rd and March the 3rd of next year. And it may not be a complete release. The final releasing of whatever's in the Virgo part of the chart may take another year. And if that tempo, if that slowness works to your advantage, because you're able to create the new while being supported by the old, take advantage of it. This particular full moon lunar eclipse is very much focused on the new. But with full moons and with lunar eclipses, there could be the unexpected. And certainly pay attention to anything that is giving you information about people or situations between being eclipsed in and out of your lives. Pay attention to intimations of mortality. We are in an eclipse month. And mortality issues, you know, people, situations being eclipsed in and out of our life, all of that just try to be very present and conscious and make fewer assumptions about where things are going to go. Because everybody's being eclipsed or dealing with eclipses. So you might think, oh, this is a sign that I need to exit the situation, only to find 2 months from now that whoever was creating trouble is actually in the process of exiting a situation and you were meant to stay all along. This is what I mean by do not get too rash or hasty. I'm saying that over and over again. Keep your wits about you. God is taking the wheel, Spirit is taking the wheel as it does with eclipses. So something about this full moon could contribute to the serendipitous timing of Mercury and the Sun conjuncting a week after the full moon. So the full moon could bring some sort of intimations, visibility, a portal of opportunity opening to create the new. And the timing of it is such that Mercury conjuncting with the Sun in the Virgo part of the chart could feel like a very timely reconfiguration, a very timely reset for Mercury in the Virgo part of the chart, Remember, we're still under the influence of the normal, regular new moon in Virgo on August the 22nd. And a new moon occurs in the Virgo part of the chart, and 2 weeks later, a full moon occurs in the Pisces part of the chart. Now, sometimes it's the full moon that occurs first and the new moon later. Right now, we're still in a place until the new moon solar eclipse on the 21st of September, where the new moon is occurring first and the corresponding full moon is occurring 2 weeks later. There's a connection between what started with the new moon and this particular new moon in Virgo a week ago for us as I record this, 2 weeks by the time we get to the full moon lunar eclipse, is about taking the steps to bring the Virgo part of the chart into alignment in the direction that we want to bring it. It is about planting seeds for the new. 2 weeks after that new moon, we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces that seems to be very intent in helping us create the future state, a desired future state. And a week after that, Mercury and the Sun conjunct in Virgo. This is all about creating the new, and the Mercury Sun conjunction is for the planet of our cognition, thinking, planning, talking, speaking, writing, texting, to get into alignment with the Sun, who says, all right, this is the direction that we're going in Winged Messenger. Between now and November the 20th, you have your marching orders. By the time November the 20th comes around and we have a retrograde Mercury conjuncting the Sun, it'll be time for another conference between these two planets. The Sun, the most solar, the steadiest part of ourselves, moves 1 degree every day in the chart. The most unflappable part of the ourselves. And Mercury, the most flappable part of ourselves, you know. Need to meet up often to make sure that our mental selves, our mental health, if you like, our focus on communication and cognitive activities are in alignment with our soul growth. And that is all I have to say. It is a Pisces full moon. Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer, one of the rulers of the full moon. So Jupiter and the moon are in mutual reception and are trining each other and are in signs that they are comfortable in. This is part of the reason why this eclipse is so, kind of has a blessed feeling towards it, but it's still an eclipse. Watch out. The other ruler of Pisces, Neptune, is in Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is in Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. Venus is in Leo. Leo is ruled by the Sun. The Sun is in Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is in Virgo. So the dispositors of the chart are the Moon and Jupiter in mutual reception, and Mercury in Virgo. And by the way, Jupiter and Mercury are the two planets that are making aspects to this full moon. That is all I have to say about this eclipse. I want to look at my eclipse list super quick, if PowerPoint will cooperate with me, to just scan these Virgo Pisces eclipses one more time, all of them, to see if there's anything to be gained from looking at them, looking at that list. We had a Pisces eclipse on September 17th of last year. So the week before and after July 17th, week before and after September 17th of 2024 would be linked to this. In 2025, 3 of the 4 eclipses on the Pisces-Virgo axis. March the 13th, we had a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. September the 7th of this year, we have the Pisces eclipse. September 21st, we have the Virgo solar eclipse. Next year in 2026, we have one more lunar eclipse, my darlings, on August, this is what I was looking for, on August the 28th of next year. We only have two out of the 4 eclipses next year on the Virgo Pisces axis. And then on February the 20th, I keep saying February, March of 2027, we have the last one in Virgo. So in Pisces, we will have no solar eclipses in the sign of Pisces. We only have full moon lunar eclipses, culminations in the sign of Pisces under this eclipse cycle. For anyone who's an astrology nerd. Eclipse on September 17, 2024, full moon lunar eclipse on September 7th of 2025, full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces on August the 28th of 2026. Make of it what you'd like. The only solar eclipse, lunar eclipse on this axis together that are connected to each other is the solar eclipse in Virgo on September 21st and the corresponding lunar eclipse in Virgo on March the 3rd. We are leaning into something into the Pisces part of the chart for our development. We're releasing something in the Virgo part of the chart, and there's no question that eclipses are about change. There's no other astrological event that signifies what is shifting and changing. The chart keeps moving. You are never astrologically going to be in a place of stability. And change is the only constant, as the philosophers and thinkers and spiritual teachers tell us. And the eclipses are the primary marker, along with Jupiter. But the eclipse is the primary marker of change in our charts and what that change is. But while sudden change can occur with the eclipses, and it can, dramatic change, it is still part of a cycle that occurs during that time frame, middle of July, in this case of 24, to February 20th of 27, that these changes are occurring in. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that, amigos. I'm going to leave it at that. Every video does not have to be over an hour long. 3 ways to connect with me or utilize my services. The free videos I put on this channel, the $6.99 a month membership part of the channel that has rising sign specific content. You can watch it for your sun sign, you can watch it for your moon sign if you like, but that's if you like. It's really meant for rising signs. My email address is in the description box below, as is information of memberships. So you can email me if you're looking for a personal reading, and I can give you information on what I'm offering in rates. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. When you subscribe, there's a bell icon next to the subscribe button. There's a wiggly bell on top. When you subscribe, you'll have the option to click on that. When you do, you'll be notified when I do new videos. You can contribute to this channel for free by liking this video, commenting on it. You can contribute to this channel monetarily by using the thanks button underneath this video, or donating. Information on that is in the description box below. Thank you to all subscribers and members. Thank you for your patience. And deep breath as we enter September. And I can't wait to hear from you all. I can't wait to continue to do new videos. Now, I will tell you, I do feel like for this coming week, don't come at me, as far as the free content is concerned, I don't want to just do pointless, useless videos. I do feel like between the weekly overview and this full moon, I'm just like, what else am I going to talk about this week? Something or the other will come up. I might, as the week goes on, and I continue to do my readings and continue to do my work, feel like, oh, this eclipse needs a pep talk or something like that. But just know that typically the videos I would typically have done my weekly overview yesterday or today, and I would have done this full moon video in 3 or 4 days time, and the videos would have been more spaced out. Kind of pushed out the primary content for the week, okay, in the free part of the channel. So don't come at me if you're not seeing more content, because I'm like, what else are we going to talk about right now? It's all here in this full moon video and this last video. And quite frankly, the new moon in Virgo video is still relevant. That pep talk video is still relevant. The bird's eye view of the second half of 2025 is still relevant. Saturn moves back into Saturn today. Remember, my first priority for you is to do what? To stabilize the Pisces part of the chart once and for all. And I'm not going to get into that now, because if I do, we will be here for another 3 hours. And it is a lot of stuff that I've already said before. And you will start to throw tomatoes and exit me. All right, I will leave it at that. Thank you. Take care.